Hi everyone, welcome to join our seminar today. My name is Kevin and I am the host today. And I'm also a teacher in charge of nonfiction reading and writing program in Harmony Plus. In today's seminar, we are very happy to have Mr. Benji to talk about how to increase students' ability of nonfiction reading and writing. So before we start our seminar, I would like to briefly introduce our company. Harmony Plus is an official partner of leading university and institutions in the United States, such as UC Berkeley, Stanford International Research Institute, and San Jose State University. We are committed to providing top-notch programs to outstanding local and international students. And at Harmony Plus, we adapt a hybrid learning platform which combines offline school with students, theory with practice, and education with service. In this summer, Harmony Plus and Challenge School are working together to start a new summer program, which is Nonfiction Reading and Writing Summer Camp. It will be start on July the 6th, and it will be end on July the 17th. The program will mainly focus on 4th to 6th graders. And by Zoom online classroom, we will teach our class. And we are happy to have Mr. Benji as our teacher of the program. So today we are very happy to invite Mr. Benji to join our seminar. Mr. Benji graduated with distinction from Yale University, studied creative writing with Michael Cunningham, Pulitzer Prize for Fiction winner. He was also in USC's MFA program in screenwriting. He has extensive experience teaching SAT, ACT Prep, AP Language, AP Literature, college essays and applications, and creative writing. He is also passionate about helping students. He loves imparting knowledge and solving problems creatively and effectively. Benji, would you like to say hi to our audience today?
Hey everyone, thank you for that introduction, Kevin. I will now share my screen.
Benji, let me introduce my agenda to
Okay, yes, yeah. Of course, but it's great to be here. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so today's agenda is, first we are going to introduce the nonfiction reading and writing, and Benji will also introduce the importance of nonfiction reading and writing for students, and he will also introduce some ways to develop children's interest and capability in nonfiction reading and writing. And also at the last of his lecture, he will also recommended books and short stories, which will be useful for writing for students. And at the end of the lecture, we're going to have a Q&A sessions. So if you have any questions during the lecture, please leave your comments in the chat box, and we're going to take a look at those questions, and we will have Benji to answer those questions. And now let's welcome Mr. Benji to start his lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, hello everyone. My name is Benji Steinberg. I really appreciate the introduction. I'd just like to start by giving my own background and my own experience being introduced to both creative writing and nonfiction writing. My sort of gateway to writing was in elementary school in Los Angeles, where I had this teacher named Miss de Blasio, and she told all of us to unlock the writer within. That meant opening yourself up to writing, learning how to love writing, learning how to love reading, and she really inspired me. And when I was in 4th or 5th grade, I ended up writing this 175-page novel. It was a fictional novel called The Zekel Hajj of Dragdo. It was a pirate story, and it was a lot of fun for me. And ever since then, I've been obsessed with reading and writing, and I'm very excited to share that passion and that knowledge with students. At Gunn High School, so then my family moved up to the Northern California Bay Area, and I edited the literary magazine at Gun High School. In Palo Alto, my work, my poetry, and my short stories were published in the Young American Poetry Digest, the River of Words. I got an award in the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards, and also the Palo Alto Short Story Contest. From there, where I felt I did refine my reading and writing, I went on to Yale University, where I got a BA in Comparative Literature and Film Studies. I studied creative writing with Michael Cunningham, the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction winner, and he had this wonderful course where he, again, reawakened the writer within. And he taught me many things, from description to character to structure to tone, that I then went on to use in screenwriting, which I sort of found my calling in, the dramatic writing form. I went to LA, and after working in the film and TV industry for a year, I applied and got into USC's screenwriting program, which has been ranked the #1 screenwriting program in America by The Hollywood Reporter. So that's been my journey. And again, I'm really excited to share everything I've learned on the way with your kiddos. So, writing. Why is writing so important for students? Well, in this world we live in, writing is one of the primary ways students are assessed in terms of comprehension. So even if you understand something extremely well and can express it verbally, if you can't write it clearly and understandably, you won't get the grades. And this also goes in this modern world for the workplace. Writing, especially through email, through memos, etc., is very key, and clarity has a very, very high premium. So the key part of writing is clearly understandable. It should be understandable and it should be clear. And that's what I'm going to teach in this course, in the nonfiction reading and writing course, how to write clearly and understandably using organization, analysis, description, structure. So not only is there a connection between writing and grades, but there's also a connection between writing and reading. Writing and reading is a two-way street. In order to develop great grammar and syntax, you must read great grammar and syntax, and vice versa, especially for students who are learning reading and writing English as a second language. This is extremely, extremely important. And then, of course, like I mentioned, there's a huge importance of organization in the development of ideas for writing. From middle school to high school to college and beyond in the workplace, organization is the key to clarity and understandability. Great. Whereas there are, tools such as Microsoft Word to correct grammar and spelling, there isn't really anything for organization yet. So this is one of these things that you need to learn really, really early on, because it's being assessed very early these days, as early as middle school. So the younger you get your kids onto this track to learn clarity and understandability and organization and analysis, the better prepared they're going to be for the future. Now, many of you might ask the question, okay, my kid isn't expressly interested in reading and writing at this age, or especially nonfiction reading and writing. How do I get my child interested and invested in reading things that have actually happened, as opposed to fantasy or historical fiction or the things they probably already love? Well, the first step is just finding the subjects and the topics and the characters and the genres they love. Whether that's fantasy, mystery, horror, and then finding the overlap between those and nonfiction texts. For example, if they love reading about detectives, you might get them a book about a real life detective. So making that transition from fiction to nonfiction is key, because while reading fiction is great and that will help you in terms of grammar and syntax and everything, really making that transition into nonfiction reading and writing is important, because that's the primary way, again, of assessment in middle school, high school, college, and beyond. Great. Another way to really develop children's capability and interest in nonfiction reading and writing is to get your kid to experience a back and forth with writing. So this can mean diaries, it can mean journals. It's especially great if you model this for them. You know, if you're keeping a diary or a journal, they'll look up to that and they'll want to emulate that. You can do an interactive back and forth with your kid. You're writing, they're writing, you respond to their writing, they respond to your writing, and you can also provide daily writing prompts that they can write off of. There are many of these online. I'll be using many of these in the class. Many of these are multimodal, which means they'll involve images and videos. But the most important thing about keeping kids writing is really just feedback. It's feedback, feedback, feedback. The more the kid has an audience for their writing, the more they'll feel passionate about using writing to entertain, inform, and persuade, and teach lessons, as I'll get into in a moment. And then lastly, you want to make sure that they transition into more difficult types of writing. And this is something that we'll be doing in the class. We'll start off with narrative writing, which is sort of a memoir, personal essay, transition into informative writing, which is teaching the reader about a subject, and then persuasive writing, which is persuading a reader to do something or think of something differently. Of course, for elementary school, middle school, and high school, this issue of getting into the best colleges is looming over all of the academics. And reading and writing, especially as taught in this course, is going to be extremely beneficial for the college application process. Of course, grades are extremely important, and nonfiction reading and writing is going to help a lot in grades, but also reading and writing will help in standardized tests. Of course, the SAT and the ACT have long reading and writing sections, and the SAT includes an essay. But also, and this is the narrative part of the course is going to teach your kid this the most, the personal statement is extremely important for the college application. The college personal statement is where you tell the college about yourself, how you connect to the world, how your identity connects to the world. And it shows self-reflection, self-understanding, and also understanding larger ideas in the world and synthesizing all of those into a pithy, short, personal memoir essay. Right. So for the personal statement, you want to know how you became who you are, what you want to do next, and why. And critical to this is understanding the world and yourself and how the two interact. For this, you want to prepare as much ahead of time as possible. And the narrative writing section, the first 3 classes of the nonfiction reading and writing course are going to be critical for getting your kid on that right track, so they're way ahead of other kids their age in terms of that personal statement. And when they get to high school, when they get to those later years in high school and they tackle that personal statement, they'll already know what they're doing, as opposed to many students who get there and are sort of fumbling around. Right. Now, specifically, let's talk about the importance of nonfiction reading and writing. The main way high schoolers learn reading and writing is through English, which mostly teaches fictional reading, and you respond to that with writing. One of the biggest issues in education right now, actually, is that high school English courses don't really teach you how to write in college. They focus too much on style and content. Instead, actually, the really important stuff is organization and analysis. Once you get to college, those things are going to really, really be key, organization and analysis. So what this Harmony Plus nonfiction reading and writing course is going to do is really just drill in, focus on that organization and analysis. And in just a moment, I'll explain what that looks like. But you know, also in reading, we'll be doing reading each class. You're going to want to look for the main ideas and arguments. So essentially do that backwards, as opposed to writing using organization analysis. You're pulling the organization and analysis out of the reading that you have. And this you find not only on SATs, but also in APs and in college. What really pays off in college are writing organized thesis statements, writing analytical body paragraphs, reading more efficiently and effectively, and improving standardized test performances. And these are the goals of the nonfiction reading and writing program. Let's see exactly how we tackle those goals. Okay, so the way this course is structured is actually working backwards from the Common Core standards. And the Common Core standards test 3 types of reading and writing: the narrative type, the informational type, and the persuasive type. Firstly, the narrative type. In this class is essentially going to be memoir writing. And it's the best place to start because not only is it the closest to fictional writing, but you are the subject of the essay, okay? It's the easiest way to build specificity and analysis because the subject is you. Additionally, as I mentioned before, narrative writing will really help in personal statements when it comes later in high school. We really focus on structure in the first class, then description in the second class, how that can evoke tone and mood, and then we work on character development, you being the character. Of course, we also emphasize the purpose and why of the essay. Why are you writing it? Are you writing to entertain? Are you writing it to teach a lesson? Are you writing it, in the case of commercials, why are they written? To sell a product. Every type of narrative writing, every story told has a purpose. And we're really going to emphasize, okay, what is the purpose? Who is your audience? What are you trying to achieve with this piece of narrative writing? Secondly, the second 3 classes will focus on informational or informative writing. Informational or informative writing is very similar to the expository type of writing you see in college essays, in terms of the essays you actually write in college. And it's essentially asking the writer to analyze, take apart a real life topic and synthesize it into an essay that teaches the reader about that topic. We're going to focus on the cause and effect and problem solution type essays because those are more about analysis as opposed to the chronological or descriptive type essays. And we're going to let students choose their topics because ultimately the topics are less important than the organization and clarity. The emphasis of this class is that organization and clarity, and the students can choose whatever they're passionate about because ultimately whatever real life nonfiction subject they're passionate about is what they're going to write and express and organize and analyze best. However, the readings will be chosen by me, and I hope to make them as culturally relevant as possible, talking about things like identity, equality, and justice. Again, the students can write whatever they're interested in. A lot of the times they will write things about identity, equality, or justice because that's what we learn in class, and those are also the things that are taught in high school the most, so we'll really, really prepare them for high school. And then finally, we are going to do the op-ed, or persuasive type essay. The op-ed sort of functions as the capstone of the course. As opposed to entertaining or teaching a lesson, it's more, as opposed to teaching about a subject, it's trying to persuade the reader to think a different way and even to act in a different way in the world. And the final class of the course has a debate where we debate a topic. For example, should kids have cell phones? And the kids will go back and forth. Kids love debating. Kids always love this last class. So what sets this course apart from all the other courses? Let's look at this. The highlights of the class are high school content, a multimodal approach, 3 major writing pieces, a high and frequent and quick level of feedback to students, prompt feedback with parents, small classroom size, and providing individualized reading lists. Now, the reading is usually middle school level because that's more appropriate for these kids' grade levels. However, the standards for the writing are high school. However, as I say in the bullet point talking about the level of feedback to students, the great thing about this class, we're going to be working off of Google Docs. I grade each kid separately, and I grade 2 drafts. So I first grade their outline, then I grade a rough draft, then I grade a final draft. And depending on their level of writing as it stands, because I'm sure many of their levels of writing are already very high, I can sort of tailor my feedback. For students who are at a higher level, I'll make it tougher. For students who are at a lower level, I'll make it slightly easier. I'll always be trying to push them up that next rung of the ladder. And of course, as this is Kevin's territory, there is a prompt feedback to parents. Kevin will always be communicating with the parents. And if a student doesn't turn in their homework, he'll get to the parent so that they can turn in that homework and I can grade it in time. The emphasis is this thorough, comprehensive, very helpful feedback that I give. Of course, the multimodal approach is also very important. This is sort of a buzzword in educational circles, but multimodal means using not only text, but also images and videos. And these really engage the students and keep them really leaning into the subjects and the material. Finally, I'd like to talk about some recommended books and short stories to really push the kids to a higher reading level. So these are fictional. I can also compile a list of non-fictional books and stories, but these were all books that I loved and stories I loved when I was that age. So just quickly, Holes by Louis Sachar is about a boy sent to a juvenile facility in the desert after falsely being accused of theft. So it's about justice and what it's like to be a teenager and sort of a coming of age. Many of these stories are coming of age. We have The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain, an absolute classic about a boy's adventures in a small town in Mississippi. We also have The City of Ember, about two friends trying to escape an underground city in a post-apocalyptic future. Now, those are all for grades 4 to 6. If you have students who are slightly older, grades 6 through 8, you could also have them read something like The House of the Scorpion. It's also set in the future, and it's about a clone trying to find his own identity. His Dark Materials, a great fantasy trilogy about an 11-year-old who tries to save her best friend who's kidnapped and taken into parallel universes. Additionally, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. This is a great way to introduce your kids to the crime genre, which is a central genre in literature, and it's a murder mystery set in rural England. Now, some short stories, if they want some shorter chunks of reading that do really push their reading level, might include All Summer in a Day, which is about a class of students on Venus who are eager to see the sun for the first time in 7 years. Also, Harrison Bergeron. This is about a world in which everyone is handicapped by the government and one teenage boy breaks free from his handicaps. 7th Grade, short story that all the kids love in these classes. It's about a boy trying to seem cool in middle school. Rules of the Game is about a young girl who becomes a chess prodigy. There's Raymond's Run, about a young girl training her disabled older brother to run in a marathon. There's Girl, about a young girl's mother trying to teach her traditional gender roles. And finally, there's 11. Similar to 7th Grade, it's about a young girl who has a humiliating experience in class. So all of these readings will, again, really challenge the students and get their, not only their syntax, grammar, but also their use of descriptive language and knowledge of character and structure, and push it to the next level. A great way to prepare them before the class to transition them into the narrative writing, which then transitions into the informative writing, which then finally transitions into the capstone, which is the persuasive writing op-ed. So that's what I have to share for you guys. And I'm really looking forward to answering any questions you may have. So Kevin, if you would like to take back the mic or relay the questions, whatever works.
Okay. Thank you so much, Benji. It is really inspiring for me hearing your experience. So, and you also shared a list of great books for students. So I think that's very useful. There are some questions we have. I think there are some questions we have from the parents. And let me see. Okay. So as you mentioned, our summer program will mainly focus on the, first to 6th graders. Like some parents may ask if my kids also wants to join the class, but like he's not first grade yet, or he's in 7th grade, like can they also join the program?
Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure. We'll have to figure that out, but I'd be happy to take students from different grade levels into the class. Right now, this is specifically tailored for 4th to 6th graders, but hopefully we could do another iteration of the class later on, or simultaneously that also caters to 7th to 8th graders, or whatever age group has that demand. Yeah.
Okay. So the second question is that how do we get the reading materials that you use in the class? I mean, for parents, are they available also for the reading materials?
Yes, of course. So the reading materials, again, we're going to be working off of Google Docs. So I'll be able to share those with all the students. And if you'd like, as a parent, to also be shared on these Google Docs, I can use your email to give you access. It's essentially a centralized way for us all to view the readings and the exercises we do in class, and the homework and essays we do outside of class at the same time. So it will be accessible to everyone. And
Okay.
if anybody wants, I can send them the readings beforehand, even before the class starts.
Okay. So yeah, so some parents like may have concern about the the reading materials. So they might ask, how would you choose those reading materials that you use in the class?
Yeah, of course. I choose the materials using online databases that specifically tailor materials to kids' age groups. So 4th, 5th, 6th grade, different reading lexiles. And in terms of the subjects, I look for things that might interest them. For example, we have some articles about COVID, how scientifically animals can spread diseases to humans, also how economically COVID might be disproportionately affecting the poor. We also read some fictional articles about, for example, a young man in New York City in the 1950s who is afraid of experiencing racism, a middle-aged woman on an island who is afraid of a snake in her backyard, different readings like that. They're not really unified by a single theme. I try to give as much variety in terms of the subject and topics of the readings as possible.
Yeah, that sounds very useful. And so how do you balance reading and writing in class? Like, what is more focused for this program?
Yeah, I'd say I try to get an equal balance. We usually start each class with a warm-up. So for example, I'll give them 3 pictures and I'll say, choose one picture and describe with as much detail using the 5 senses as much as possible one of these pictures. And then we'll move on to an interactive lecture in which I'll intersperse sort of lessons that they need to learn, for example, about descriptive writing or character or structure, or structuring a persuasive essay. And students will do some writing activities during class in response to what I'm teaching them. Then and during them, we also usually look at commercials, images, stuff like that, even clips from movies, which they especially love, to teach them things like character and persuasiveness and expository essays. Then usually the last 30 minutes of class, we do a discussion before reading. We read the reading in class, and then we finish with 5 multiple choice questions on the reading and a brief response to the reading based on a question.
Okay. So you mentioned that students will do writing in and after class, right?
Correct.
And you also mentioned that like feedback is important in inspiring students' interest in nonfiction writing. So how will you give the students feedbacks? And yeah.
Yeah, so I will be giving them feedback on Google Docs. I will go into their Google Doc, see what they've written, and then I will use the comment feature and the corrections feature on Google Docs, where I'm able to highlight a piece of what they've written. And I might say, okay, this paragraph is great, except you only have 1 piece of evidence and 1 piece of analysis. You need a second piece of evidence and second piece of analysis. this is your topic sentence, but it reads more like your thesis sentence, so maybe move this topic sentence up here. I'll give them feedback like that. I just try to go as in-depth as possible, addressing both the macro, the larger places where there's room for improvement in the essay, and the smaller places where there's room for improvement, down at the sentence level or out to the entire organizational level.
Okay, so I just heard that there's three important parts in nonfiction reading and writing. So which is narrative, informative, and persuasive writing, right?
Yeah.
So how will you teach them in your class, like distinctly, and how each will be valued according to their writing style?
So the narrative is the most personal, right? You're going to really want to emphasize, okay, what is my personal connection to this story? What did I learn from this story? You're going to want to really put the reader in that place and time with as much vivid details that evoke feelings as possible. And you're going to want to show character development, show how you as a person changed during this event that is filled with conflict, rising action, a climax, falling action, and resolution. So I teach them the different parts of that story. So it has to be well structured in that way. That is sort of the easiest for most students. Then we move on to informative. And informative, again, is very much about structure and using evidence and research. So I teach them how to present what the different types of evidence are. Are we talking about numbers, statistics, or are we talking about weaker types of evidence, like anecdotes? I emphasize, okay, usually we want to work off of facts, numbers, and statistics that are cited from credible sources, reputable sources online, and we emphasize that. So I teach them how to get strong facts to support their argument in their essay. However, I also tell them not to use I, we, or you to talk in the third person. So we focus a lot on that, as well as the broader organization, thesis, 2 to 3 body paragraphs, and conclusion. And we break down how each of those paragraphs should be structured. And then finally, persuasive is sort of like informative, except we're trying to convince the reader to do something. So we also focus on evidence. We have a class on the counter-argument paragraph where you state an argument that is hard to disprove that actually goes against what you're arguing. And then you work to construct a way to disprove that counterclaim so that you can really show that your argument is as strong as possible. So yeah, going into the nitty-gritty details of what each unit is going to look like, that's sort of a lot of the subtopics we're going to be exploring for each unit.
Okay, so another question is like how the curriculum will be set up, like formally.
Yeah, I believe we have a curriculum document that we can share, and I have not only lecture slides and PowerPoint slides that I will share after each class and homework that I'll share after each class, but also the Google Docs if people would like to view those. They're all very formally, rigidly structured, and though there is flexibility within class, the curriculum itself is very organized. But I believe we do have a curriculum document that we can send out to parents, if that's what the question's asking.
Okay, so what will be the assignment like after class for students?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. So we might have students do outlines. A lot of the time we have students do outlines. For example, for their narrative essay, their first assignment will be to free write an important story that happened to them, and then take that and reverse outline it. So turn it into, okay, what is the exposition? What is the conflict, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution? We'll do things like, okay, please write your introductory paragraph, and then I will go back and give them feedback so that the next time their homework will be writing their body paragraph or their entire essay, and they'll already have their introductory paragraph prepared. So it's a lot of building towards the final essays for each unit. And again, there will be 3 major essays that will occur for each unit over the course, one for each unit rather. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Like some parents ask, like, if my kids doesn't like reading and writing, so how to motivate him?
Yeah, of course. And again, that's going back to, okay, what are subjects your kid is obsessed with? Do they love basketball? If so, I've told some of my students, Kobe Bryant wrote a great memoir about him playing basketball, so they could read that. It really all starts from their interests, even if it's just something like video games. There are great books on the history of video games. There are great books on the development of certain video games, and there are always ways to translate what they love in real life into books and reading. I mean, there's just so many books out there, and I truly believe that there are books for every kid, and that they will, not only that they'll like or be able to read, but that they will genuinely fall in love with. And one of the benefits of this class is I will construct personalized, if your kid asks for it, if you ask for it, I will construct personalized reading lists for them that I am confident they will love and will really get them into nonfiction reading and writing.
Okay, so I think that question leads to another question, which is I also want to ask. So some of the kids may have interest and they may like reading and writing, but they only read about the fantasies, right, which is fictional, like reading and writing, but nonfiction reading and writing might be unfamiliar with them. So how do you, like, how to motivate them to do the fiction reading and writing?
Yeah, so what I found, at least when I was that age, again, it is still making that transition and sort of finding those overlapping interests that they have, even between fiction and nonfiction, or between what they love in real life. But I will say one trick that I remember when I was that age, like 9, 10, 11, when I started transitioning into nonfiction from fantasy, I actually found that historical fiction, especially like young adult, sort of at that level for historical nonfiction, really grabbed me, because historical nonfiction is very similar in some ways to fantasy in that it's a completely different world. It's sort of putting us in a different time and place with very unfamiliar events, people, stuff like that. So I genuinely think, and I've seen from a lot of students that I've taught in these classes, that they like fantasy, but they also like historical nonfiction. So it seems to me that that is a very sort of organic transitional point for them.
Okay. So Benji, could you like share maybe a story, like how you discover your enthusiasm in writing and reading?
Yeah. Good question. Let's see. I mean, it really goes back to the teachers I've had. Miss de Blasio, and I'll never forget, she was my 3rd grade teacher, but I'll never forget her, Miss de Blasio. What she did is, and this was maybe a big part of it, not only did she have us write these stories, but she arranged a day, essentially a show and tell day, for all the students to listen and to bring their parents in to listen to the students read their stories in class. And this is why I think it's so important for students to have audiences. And this is why I stress and emphasize that students really share their stories in class and share what they're writing about, share what they're interested in, because having an audience for your writing is so encouraging, and it's so enthusing in terms of you can make people laugh, you can make people cry, and that only motivates you to want to write more because you're getting a real life response. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Benji, for joining our seminar and sharing your experience. I think a lot of questions you have answered will be very inspiring. Yeah, and I also think a lot of parents and students are looking forward to see you in the future class. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everyone, for coming. It was a pleasure to be here, and I really look forward to teaching your kids. It's going to be a great journey.
All right. Thank you, Benji. See you.
Thanks so much. See you later.
See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining our seminar today. And I'm going to pass the microphone to Savannah, who is the teacher from Challenge School, to give more details about how to enroll in the summer program. let's welcome Savannah.
Hello, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen real quick and show you guys how to sign up. I've included in the chat the link to the registration. It's just a link to a registration form. Okay. Okay, actually, I'm having some difficulty sharing my screen, but the link is in the chat. So as soon as you click on that link, you'll go straight to the registration form, and you can register there.
Yeah, I think,
Savannah, I think you can share the screen right now.
Kathy, yeah, you're already the host. Savannah, you can share your screen.
Okay, now it's working. Okay, yeah. So the link in the Zoom chat will go straight to here. I've also, we can also send you the link directly through email, or you can go onto our website. On our website, there's also the link right here. So, yep, it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Yep, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Savannah. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. Let's see. Teacher Vivian, do you have anything to add? Okay, I guess she's on mute right now. Does anyone have any questions about the Chinese portion of the program? I guess not.
Okay, Savannah, thank you so much for, sharing your information and helping us to find out how to enroll in the summer course. Yeah, thank you so much.
Great, yeah, thank you. If anyone does have any questions, feel free to email us and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, Kevin,
Okay.
Can you reshare the slides of the summer program dates so parents can know the details about how we arrange the summer course?
Yeah. So this is how we arrange the summer program. Yeah, it will be started on July the 6th and it will be end on July the 17th. Yeah, through Zoom online classroom.
Yeah, can you share the slide again?
Yeah, I'm sharing chat. Okay. Yeah, this is it. Yeah, this is the arrangement of our summer course.
Yeah, I think, Savannah, in the morning will be nonfiction reading and writing from 10 to 11:30, from Monday to Thursday, and then Friday we'll have the self-study day, and also students need to finish their assignments and also essays. And then we will continue for the second week from Monday to Thursday, and we end that program on July 17th. So that's the morning arrangement. And then in the afternoon, I think the Chinese school is going to arrange the pre-AP Chinese class, 1 hour per day, also every Monday to Thursday for 2 weeks. Yeah, like Savannah just shared, you can register for the summer camp on Challenge website. There's register button, and you can leave your information and enroll into this class. And this will be a small class with 8 students. So I think several parents already registered for this program. So if you want to enroll, please do that as soon as possible. And also, if you want to have the book list recommended by Mr. Benji for students to read over the summer, You can also leave your email address here in the chat box, and we're going to send through email for the book list so that your kids can read those nonfiction books recommended by Benji.
Okay, thank you, Kate.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So do you have to take both the reading, writing in the morning and Chinese in the afternoon?
Savannah, can you answer this question?
Yes, I believe it's a package program, so you would sign up for both at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's the whole day summer camp arrangement, right, Savannah?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's morning and afternoon.
Any other questions? Yeah, if you also want the recorded video from Mr. Benji, if you join late, you can also leave your email address here. So we're going to follow up by sending you the video link. Okay, any other questions? Okay, if not, thank you everyone. Thank you Vivian and Savannah. Thank you for all the parents to join us. Thank you. Hope to see you in our summer camp in July. Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.